that sort of then moved on to when the S13 came out in 89.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of all threw that into a small coupe or a hatch, marketed more towards, the hairdresser style of market, as you say.
Mm-hmm.
Which it originally came out as a CA18 DE and DET, and then moved up after that in 91 or 90.
The S13?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it changed to SR20.
Yeah, it was
as
either
the
91
main-
or 92 that it changed to the SR20. But I wasn't listening to what you just said, so I can't. If I repeat what he said, don't worry. But yeah. So with the Safiro, going back to that one,
Yeah.
it shared exactly the same chassis with the Laurel.
Yep. The C33. Yep. That's
Yep.
the same, yeah.
Yep. The Safiro also came in left-hand drive. And
See, I didn't know about this.
Yeah.
Trav just told me about this before.
yeah, so it came in left-hand drive format, and that's really interesting for Americans if they ever want to get a Safiro. But they definitely got sold in China. If you go and watch any kind of Chinese drifting, pretty common for it to be a Safiro because they got them locally. As well as it got sold throughout a fair bit of East Asia and in Latin America and in Europe, but more in the I don't even know how to say it, but like, for instance, Turkey and similar sized countries in similar population countries.
Yeah.
It's actually really, really famous and popular in Turkey. It won some massive awards and stuff like that of
Far
being
out.
like the best car in Turkey or something like that.
They knew what was up.
But they're all left-hand drive. So it's really easy for Americans to get them if they ever wanted to, as long as they can find a decent example. And the Laurel, it came out in Japan and also Taiwan. And it was selling in Taiwan, I want to say, until like 94, 95, which is longer than it was selling in Japan.
Far out.
Yeah. So the Laurel and the Safiro share the same engine platforms, exactly the same. But I don't think we ever saw a four-wheel drive Laurel.
I don't think there was.
I don't
no.
think there was a four-wheel drive Laurel. I could be wrong about that. The other interesting thing with a Laurel is I've lost my train of thought. Totally lost my train of thought. But anyway, the similarities between so the competitors with the Laurel and the Safiro was directly to the Chaser and the Cresta and the Mark IIs. They were the complete direct competitors. And that's why they had to put in these performance versions of this. This is a massive change up in like 1988, 89 for Nissan. They just had to keep up with Toyota, basically. Or Toyota had to keep up with them. I'm not sure. But they also brought out a Leopard. The Nissan Leopard is
I love those
such an
things.
underdog of a car. No one really knows about Leopards.
Yeah.
I've never seen one.
I've
in
seen
person.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. And
And they're the cumulative of basically all of those late 80s, early 90s cars. It has the motor of a Z and it of like a 300 ZX.
good old VG30.
It's a similar wheelbase to a S13, S12, but I'm pretty sure it has the suspension of a Skyline or something it's something crazy like that. It was marketed against the Soarers. Not talking the bubble Soarers either. I'm talking the GZ20 Soarers, the boxier ones, and you can really see the styling similarities between the two. I love GZ20 Soarers.
Yeah, they're cool.
But so that was their lineup, and then and that was their lineup pre S13, just like the year before, basically. Then they brought out the S13. You've probably already mentioned it, but they had the two variants in Japan, the Silvia and the 180SX. It wasn't called a 200SX ever in Japan for either the 180SX or for the Silvia, right up through S14, S15. That was only in other territories that they were. The 180SX, interestingly enough, kept going in Japan until the S15.
Yeah.
And that's pretty damn crazy because this didn't get sold that long in America. But it was quite a popular car. The 240SX is quite a popular car in America.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that they stopped selling it in America after losing all pop-ups headlight style to go to a non-pop-up headlight style. Japan obviously wanted to keep that styling going. But again, there were still other cars in Japan that had pop-up headlights. And I think worldwide, there was like this big safety thing about pop-up headlights that stopped it. Obviously, Japan didn't get the message until later on. They still had FDs,
Lost in translation
FCs,
somewhere.
and the NSX and so many other cars that had pop-up headlights. But
Because they just knew they were cool. They just kept going.
yeah,
I appreciate
bring
it.
them back.
Please
But,
do.
especially FDs. That's such a modern
Oh,
look.
man. FDs are so good.
But
Someone sell me an FD. I'll swap you a 34 and my 86.
basically, the S13. Oh god, I keep losing my train of thought because I keep looking at the stupid live. The S13 came out and it just wasn't that similar to an S12,
No,
but
it was completely different.
ba-
First year it came out, it even won Japan Car of the Year, like straight up.
Yep.
And
Because it filled that market gap that wasn't there before, and it was not marketed as like a super sports car.
No,
that was the Skyline.
yeah,
That was their sports car. Like, it was marketed to women, like straight up. That's what it was marketed to, and it sold well, like really well.
really well.
And I think that carried through, in my opinion, right through to the S15s. You know, back S14, I think they kind of lost their touch in their market for that, and I don't think they sold as well.
Yeah,
S15,
that was the big
they really went back to
push for the
basics.
facelift, yeah.
Yeah, and you know they brought out the convertible again. You know, you compare that to an MX-5 or Miata, and like that's the girl's hairdresser car. Like that is it. You know, that's what's popular. So they brought out the S15 with the Varietta. The S13 had the convertible version.
Funny
Both
enough,
of which
the convertible
cars look
wasn't
really weird.
crazy popular either, though.
But I don't think it was in America because they got manual roof. They didn't get a electric
Were the
roof.
S13 electric in Japan?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Japan, the Japanese ones are
Far out.
electric.
Yeah,
so-
because I did read up about that. The American converted ones were all done post-production, so they just kind of cut the roof off and made a soft top.
yeah.
I was like, okay.
I hadn't heard that, but yeah,
They were
not
done
the
over there.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense now because I've only ever seen the American ones. So.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Japanese convertibles are a lot nicer and obviously were built for it. I don't know if they sold that well because they're not that popular overseas.
No.
But, yeah. God, that's annoying me. That's really annoying me that this isn't working. I don't know why.
Blank it out, Trav. You
I
can
know.
do it.
I got to blank it out, and then I should turn the screen off.
Turn the screen off.
But no, because then we won't see the comments.
You need a screen to cut the holes out.
Yeah.
Comments and just not look at it.
Basically, though, to tell the history of why they got to that point with the A31 and then splitting off, you really have to go right back to the DR30 and how much that changed Nissan's way of thinking about the cars. So the DR30 is the predecessor to the R31, which is the predecessor to the R32. The DR30 was awesome. That is a super nice, sleek looking car. In the later iteration, 1983 onwards, where it became DR30 instead of R30, basically they had an FJ20 DET, which is an awesome motor. It's a 4-cylinder, 2-liter turbo.
It's basically a better SR20, and they shouldn't have got rid of it.
I would
It just
I
needed
would nearly
updates.
argue that it's halfway between an SR and a CA because
It's old tech. If they'd upgraded it and kept the iron
it's a
block,
cast iron block
it would have been
SR,
sweet.
but
Pretty
with
sweet.
way better head still because it's not rockers and rockers break and don't like grabbing.
Yep.
CAs,
Thanks, Nissan.
CAs, in fact, this is another bit of trivia about the S13. They were marketed as the sports model when both were selling. The CA came with the proper bucket seat. The CA came with the heads-up display.
Yeah.
Like, the CA came with the sunroof. You know? Like, it was the sports model, not the Silvia.
Yeah.
With its SR20 and not... but later on, they decided that the SR was better, but they weren't predicting that it was going to be the sportier one. It was just the new one.
Yeah.
But the CA was directly the sportier one of the two and has a lot more sportier features. But going back to the DR30 anyway with its FJ20, it came with another motor. I want to say it was the CA18, but I can't 100% remember what the other motor was. But basically, the DR30, it was after that point that they really split one way or the other. And one way went to Skyline, one way went to Silvia. The Silvia was that smaller car because Japan had these compact car rules when they were selling because there was, massive emissions times and stuff like that. The cars had to be compact.
Yeah.
And
also, as we know from previous episodes, you've got to pay for parking areas. So having something that fits in a small car park
Key cars or K cars, whatever you want to say.
Correct it. Right?
Yeah. I'll correct myself. Thank you. K cars, they started around that time and they're way cheaper.
Yeah.
And the reason why lots of the S13s and Skylines and stuff came with other engines was because it's much cheaper road tax for a smaller engine. Way cheaper. I would nearly almost, at a guess, say half. Basically, when they split, the S13 went towards the 4-cylinder route. And then you had, which I think you might as well count the S12, was their 4-cylinder turbo route. Then the R31 was their 6-cylinder route. In Australia, we did get a 4-cylinder version of the R31, which was called a Pintara. I don't know why they would pick that name. It sounds terrible, but that's what they picked. And it was the 4-cylinder variant, but it was like the base model of base models, There was no turbo 4-cylinder variant of that.
No.
Not that we even got a turbo variant in Australia, but like it was the base of base.
Yeah, definitely.
Then the R31, it got the RB20 DET, which was, I want to say, the first one with the RB20 DET, but the other car that got an RB20 DET, which I had a motor out of, was the first 300ZX.
True.
Yes. So it's the arguably better looking one. And it has the air ducting under the headlights, that variant of the 300ZX.
True.
With the pop-ups. Not the
fixed headlights.
Not the fixed headlights. And in the 200ZR of the 300ZXs, it had an RB20 DET. Those RB20 DETs are classed as a red top RB20 DET. This is a major tangent, but anyway. But it's important for the history because all of the cars are so linked together. Like their lineup was so linked in the late 80s, early 90s. Whereas it's so different nowadays. Like I would even say, and after like S15 era, it all kind of just went into. I think there was some big issues with Nissan at the time, and in the late 90s, where they were spending too much money, and that's when they got. The CEO of Renault or something like that came in and anyway turned Nissan around, and that's when a few years later they started making the new GDR because they'd got themselves out of debt.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Back to S13s.
Yeah. So when it split, obviously we got the S12, we got the R31. And they were decent, but back with the R31, so many people complained that they weren't getting a GDR. And that's when that in the R31s, we got the GDSR. We already had the red top RB20 version, but then people wanted the GDR, you know? So they came out with a GDSR, and so many people were pissed. Like, this was not right. They wanted their GDR. Then they came up with the R32 GDR later on and smashed the market.
Yeah.
But interesting about the GDSR is it has a steam pipe manifold factory with quite a decent sized turbo. I want to say T28 sized, and made a decent amount more power. The GDSR is the one that's famous in Australia as well, and was on Ken Block's team for Ken Block Nissan. So it was the car that won Bathurst prior to the R32 absolutely destroying Bathurst and getting very famous in Australia as being called Godzilla. That actually started back with the R31. So yeah, it's interesting. And the R32 was actually, if people don't know, what the GDR was sold in Australia, 100 of them. I've seen and touched the number one. It was actually owned by a farmer in Queensland, and Garage 13 owner Bo, he bought it from Nissan. It was sitting in their lot. The number one that was imported into Australia.
That's cool.
He bought it and he put it up for sale a couple months later. And Nissan in headquarters in Victoria actually bought it back. And you can go see that car. It's on display, and they fully restored it.
That's cool. I was really worried about someone buying it and then doing the typical Nissan thing and putting it around a tree.
So basically, Nissan Australia didn't want anything to do with racing heritage. The CEO at the time, for the past however many years, but only in the last 5 or so years, they've changed CEO in Australia, and he's really into the racing history, and he wanted to get that car back. They'd been looking for a really good version of the Australian GDR and that one. So that's a really cool bit of history. Anyway,
that's rad.
Yeah. I need a break from talking. Just talk about my throat's getting sore.
Yeah. So we were going back to the line splitting off from, the car that would do it all more to having your compact sports car being the Sylvia line and your big beefy Skylines, which were the sports car, for the, I guess, more expensive sports car market, I guess. They were
that true for. Racing. It was I think
the racing
I think you need to separate it from sports car and race car. You would consider the Skyline the race car. The Cedric, Gloria, Safiro, Laurel were the
luxury,
sporty
barges.
Luxury family car.
Yeah,
and in fact, it was the Safiro was more expensive than an R32 because it had all of the luxury stuff. It had the auto tinting, rear view mirror.
Yeah,
it had
right. And
all of the luxury stuff, and that's what the Safiro was. But again. And you have to point the big link with the Safiro. It's the A31, obviously, S13. Yeah. That's how it all works. It's very linked. But, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then from there, I guess, it all got funneled into just that 2 lines of cars. Really,
and obviously they went down the IRS route, which is the big calling point for the S13 compared to the S12.
So it was, one of the first, well, it wasn't the first, but it was the first major mass-produced multi-link
car, that had that
car, rear suspension setup that came out in a sports car that was easily available to everybody.
Yep, that was quite well balanced, nice to drive, had enough power, and was affordable. It was so much more affordable compared to the Skyline.
Yeah, much cheaper than the Skyline.
Anything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was back to that basics, like an A86, where it's just simple suspension and a simple motor setup. And that's what they stuck with. And it's why it was successful.
It's crazy to think, that something that old still has a very relevant suspension setup, nowadays, and something that's, that tunable, like from factory, and then you can just add more to it.
Yep.
It's not many.
Yeah, well, I mean, the new FT86 runs the same McPherson style strut,
exactly.
And it's that new affordable sports car, not race car, sports car.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's go on to engines. You can talk about engines for a bit. You'll know a bit. Start with the Zafiro.
So yeah, Zafiro came out with the old trusty RB20.
Yep. Plus the 25DE as well.
And the 25DE, yes.
Yep. Which didn't really
I don't think
take off until the R33, which ccame out with the 25DET.
Yeah, the turbo variant was a lot better.
Yep.
But yeah, so we got RB20 and the 25D, and then it moved on into the S13, which started off with the CAs, like DE and then DET options. Obviously, the DET option being the sports model, like you were saying, with a heads-up display.
Yep.
Your sunroofs, your like all the little sport trims on it.
Yep.
Coming into the Skylines, the R32 GTS.
You had so many different variants of
it's
that.
Just ridiculous.
There's GDS, GDST, and GDS4 and the GDR.
Yeah, far out. So, you've got your RB20DE, RB20Det, and then the last series came out with an RB25. Not sure if it came out with a turbo.
Which one's this for?
The last series of R32s. Like right before 33.
No, they came out with 25DEs, but not DETs.
Yeah, no, I don't think DETs. And then, obviously 32s were, 33s were all 25s. Yeah. Except for New Zealand got 20.
No, I think Japan also got 20Es.
Oh, did they get 20Es?
Yeah, and 25Es and fucking, Anyway.
Horrible motors. But yeah, and then the Silvia line.
The Silvia was strictly 4 cylinders.
Yeah, stayed 4 cylinder. And they got the SR20 as of 1991.
No, it was 92.
92?
At the earliest, yeah.
Yeah, so 92 they got the SR20, which was... I don't know, the world seems to love SR20s. And it went on from there,
I've never owned one.
I have friends that own one. That scares me. I don't want... I want to live the SR life, but it scares me.
Yeah.
But, for such a basic engine, they were really tunable for what they are on a stock ECU, which is... I guess the appeal of a small sports car is you could literally, as of like 95, you could walk into a tuning shop and be like, I want a front mount intercooler setup that'll go on my sports car, and you get a little boost controller, and you've got
just talking to the mic.
10 pound, 12 pound, you've got a pretty quick sports car for the time.
Yeah.
A very quick sports car for the time.
I don't know how many people have driven a bulk stock S13, but those things are slow. They are super slow. So that's where they kind of fit in. They're not super slow, and they probably weren't even for the time.
They weren't slow for the time.
Yeah,
they're slow in our standards now, because you look at some of the NA 4 cylinders, they make the same power as an SR did back then.
We might as well talk about this. So back around that time, and it still even holds true today for a lot of street cars in Japan, they don't have a lot of power. Like, it's boost up or a bolt-on turbo, because it's just too much effort over there. Everything's road tuned.
Yeah, I was about to say, there's not a real big dyno thing there. It's all road tuned.
And if it's not road tuned, it's just a chip from Mines or whoever's making the chips for your specific car.
It's like some super crazy built car. It's not going to have been tuned on a dyno.
And they're so rare, or even nowadays, to find a super built car. It's not a common place. But anyway, back even in Australia, and I'm sure in America, I still remember when 10 years ago, I was still reading magazines that are like 300 horsepower S13, and that was mind blowing. Like a 300 horsepower S13. We look at a 300 horsepower S13 nowadays, and you're just like, This is boost up. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know whether dynos have changed since then or what.
I was
But
like, I guess it's the technology, and they know where they can.
They know how to push the limits.
Yeah, the tunability, and I guess like the knowledge of the limits of a motor, I guess, and like the advance in timing control and fuel control of just.
Yeah, that comment's working. We got Matt Hawker commenting.
Hello.
Hello. Still glad the Facebook comments are working. If the person who's watching on YouTube can comment, just so I can know if that's working or not. But I guess if they don't comment, I'm not going to know if it's working or not. But anyway.
So having something super simple that you can make relatively good horsepower out of was just...
And look, they were still quicker than an MX-5. Back then. So, if you were looking at the two convertible S13, like you're a Japanese girl living in Japan and you're looking at the current model lineup, you've got, what was Toyota's answer?
Toyota didn't really have an
answer. Like,
no, they didn't have
Sora.
Yeah, but even that wasn't...
That's too big. And they were expensive.
They were expensive. They were high-end luxury.
What was Toyota's?
We only got a few manual ones. There wasn't very many factory manuals. People can still hear me.
No, they can't, because I can hear
thanks,
you.
Man.
Ah, yes, it is working. Samuel JW. Awesome. Okay.
Legend. Thanks, bro.
Thanks. Can you write what it's called? Because I think it's called an episode from two episodes ago is the name of the episode. But tell us anyway. But yeah, I don't think Toyota had an answer.
No, Toyota didn't have a small sports car back then. It was...
Mazda had their RX-7, but I have a feeling those were quite expensive even at the time.
Back at the time. Even then, they were expensive. Toyota had, the front-wheel drive. See, Toyota and Honda were battling against each other. It was the AEs versus, like, the Civics. And then you've got, Nissan that kind of just went off on their own with their little rear-wheel drive cars. Mm-hmm. And Mazda had the FD, which was sort of, it's up here. Your Silvias are down here, and your Skylines are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And then your MX-5 was just your base entry.
Well, the MX-5, was the S13 competitor from Mazda. But it still was nowhere near the power, even factory, of an S13. But it was probably still around the same price point. So, there was no competition, as far as I'm aware, from major manufacturers for a rear-wheel drive, girl-appealing sports car that was affordable.
No, it wasn't.
If you were richer, you probably bought a Supra. But that's still way later on in life that those were even marketed towards girls, I think.
I think the only other real
A70s certainly
direct competitor would have been the imported BMWs. But even
but
they
that's a
weren't
different market again, because they were still expensive.
Yeah, that was the only real rear-wheel drive sports car-ish thing. Yeah,
so it's interesting the market, and that Toyota didn't really step up at all for something, especially coming from the 8.6 in the 80s to then just go, meh, we just want to give front-wheel drives now.
And that's what they said, though. They were like, the 8.6 is the last rear-wheel drive Corolla, and then they stuck to it. They didn't change nothing. They just went, okay, that's the end of it. Bye.
Yeah. So, basically, I can't remember what we were talking about before.
We're talking about the engines and stuff.
Right. So, we've got to talk about America. America got screwed. They only got the KA24s. I always thought they actually got a turbo version of the KA24s, but they didn't. You guys only got the E's, which was around the CA18 era, and then later on you got the D's. He seems to think that the D's only came out in the S14s, but I'm fairly certain that they were just when they did the change up. Could be totally wrong, but I swear I've seen D's in...
I thought that all D's were swapped into S13s over there.
Yeah, could be. But even still, they got screwed. There ain't going to be much difference. So
I like KAs. They're cool.
I'd love one.
I really want a KA24 D.
To me, the KA is an FJ20 that's stroked and not turbo.
Yeah, it just needs a turbo on it.
Yeah, if they came out with the KA24 DET, that would literally be like a 2.4 litre FJ20, and that is awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Cool proposition.
Yeah. So I think all in all, you have to really consider what the whole of Nissan's history was at that time to truly understand what the S13 was. And it's, yeah, like for Nissan to bring that out and make it so affordable and so good is why it sold so well. I forgot to look up before the show how many they've sold, but I've heard or seen before that they sold hundreds of thousands of these things.
Easy to see why too, it's...
And we can see the proof in that with how many get crashed every year, and that they're still around and they're still affordable-ish even today.
Considering they're still one of the most affordable rear-wheel drive sports cars
and probably
in the
one
second
of the
hand.
most crashed rear-wheel drive sports cars.
Yeah, it's a bit sad.
Yeah. And some other cool features, was the heads-up display.
Yeah.
But that was only in the 180SXs. So it wasn't in Silvia's. I've had one. It didn't work. Then I got another car that had it as well, and it also didn't work. But actually, because that was a Silvia, and it had a heads-up display, but I can't remember if it was swapped. But I'm fairly certain that the heads-up display was only in the 180SXs.
Sure.
And you also have your different windscreen for that because they have the little tiny gold reflective part.
Yeah, inside the window.
Yeah. Well, it's on the windscreen. Yeah, to reflect it up on. There is a way to fix those if you are an owner of one of those. I think the capacitors leak in the back and you have to just change the capacitors and you can get a working heads-up display. Super cool. Super 90s.
They're so rad.
In my 8.6,
I've seen
I've
one
got the digital display and it's amazing. But yeah. The other things, littler details that make that car so modern. Power windows.
Yeah.
They all came with power windows. All of them.
Yeah.
You look
at the time though, nothing really came with power
Commodores in Australia.
Oh, man.
They didn't get power windows until 2000.
And
consistently
even then it was a paid
in everything.
Upgrade,
you can still buy cars today that don't have power windows.
Yeah.
The fact that the gearbox is the speedo is electric, not mechanical.
Where is it in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No,
Yes.
R32's a cable. That's why. Yep.
Are they?
Yep. 32's a cable, and then everything went electronic after that because we had this issue in Brendan's car.
That's interesting because RB20 box as well is completely interchangeable with a CA18 box.
I'm wondering if the sensor and the little
20 box
gear in it is the same as the little speedo cable one is. Because we've had an RB25 gearbox in my mate's R32 sedan.
Yeah,
and we went and bought the speed sensor, and we're like, "Oh, that's a cable. Oh, it's a cable." Well, it didn't go in because the speed sensor was already on the box.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. But yeah, the boxes are completely changeable with RB20 boxes. You just got to change the bell housing. They are identical between a non-turbo and a turbo one. Stop paying so much for a turbo.
You want to know what's really funny is the CA boxes are exactly the same as the SR20 boxes too.
But no honestly, difference. Just go buy a CA one because they're probably less flogged.
I was about to say, just go and
SR one.
Find someone selling a cheap CA box because they're the same.
Yeah, or best yet, a CA NA one, because that thing ain't been flogged its whole life.
Never had the power to. That is so funny.
Yeah, you can swap cross members so easily between it, and that's one big thing with them all being linked was so many things that are interchangeable between your Zafiro, Laurel, Skyline, Silvia, and probably more. You've still got stuff that's changeable between a 300ZX and stuff like that as well. And I think a major legacy part that I also see with Evos is how interchangeable everything is in later models. You can put S15 seats in your S13.
Yeah.
You can do similar things with Evos, and I
You
think
can swap
that
brakes
leads to a lot of
from
success.
Your late model stuff to your early model stuff. It literally just bolts on.
But not just that, is all of these aftermarket companies that are making parts, they don't have to do much changes to bring them into the next lineup.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big thing for buyers when people are, at least when they were in Japan. I wouldn't really consider it in Australia, but in Japan, with how big their aftermarket support was in the 90s, that is such a massive thing for that country and for the cars. Like, even to the point with the new 86s, the new 86s were sent to like Cusco and all of those, like HKS, way before the public even saw them, so that they could start designing aftermarket parts, because that is a massive thing that sells the cars. Toyota knew that with the new 86, and that's one reason why it was so successful. And I think that really helped the Silvia and the later generations of the Silvia, was the aftermarket support.
Yeah. And
you can see that today. The S13, S14, and S15 are by far the most, for a drifting related car, they have the biggest catalogue of aftermarket parts. They've been
100%.
The R&D that has gone into those chassis is insane.
Yeah.
Like, you could hop into like a very well-built competition car made in the 90s and compare that to one made today in an S13, and it wouldn't even feel anything like the same car.
No.
Not at all.
Not even close.
No, not even close.
And it's like, that's the crazy thing, is you could almost start with like a basically bare shell S13, and you could just build a working one out of aftermarket parts.
Yeah.
That's how much there is for it. And it's just ridiculous how many different companies make their own, sort of little bits and pieces for it, which is cool, like.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's a big thing to the success of the whole series of the Silvia. And that's so that covers the aftermarket, engine, suspension.
Well, yeah, it's like suspension, it's also, you look at the amount of different,
even just being able to change the diffs, between them all. I didn't know this, that all the GDRs, I knew that people wanted the GDR diffs, but I wasn't 100% sure why. And it's because they come with a mechanical LSD. Yeah. They're not viscous from factory. All GDRs. So if you see a GDR diff and you're wondering why they're so expensive, it's because they're mechanical. Yeah, I knew that was the reason, but I didn't know that was because they came with mechanical LSDs instead of viscous. But the fact that the car even comes with an LSD from factory as well in such a cheap price point. Well, that's the other thing. All of them did.
That's the other thing with Silvias.
They still do get opens.
As of the Q series, you could actually opt to have your LSD in the car, although it was
That's
viscous.
One thing we haven't talked about is you had your Qs, your Ks, and your As. The A is super rare. I don't even know if it's 100% real or not.
I've never heard of an A's, but yeah, so you've got
an
like
A is like the almighty.
I'm sure. I never heard of that. Because I knew it. Because
Let me look that up, because
I don't think so. Because
I've seen it on, like, this is going back years ago.
True. Because the whole
just remembered that
line was named after playing cards. So you've got the J's, which I've heard, which were like your super basic ones, which I've never seen one before, but I'm guessing that's because Japan never really sent them out because no one's going to buy them. Your Q's, which are your mid-range, which we see a lot of coming SRDE, and every P plater wants one. And then your Qs being SRDET or CADET.
Let me quickly...
And
I hate looking up stuff while we're streaming, but... yeah. It came... A's, almighty.
Let's see about this.
J's? I've never heard of J's versions.
J's version is like the base of the base spec from what I was reading up this afternoon.
Right. So the A's, there also exists the rare Silvia A's Almighty, introduced in late 1992. Confusingly, the Almighty fits roughly into the middle of the range. The only available engine was the NA SR20DE.
Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was there
you
anything?
Can get this front end hood emblem. And it has the A, the playing card, because the A is meant to be your ace.
Ace, yeah, okay.
There you go. So there you go.
Makes sense.
Super rare version, but it was a mid-range version. And the one that I remember seeing was DE, SR20 DE.
Far out.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yes,
there you go.
A little bit more trivia. But I never knew about the J's. So what was with the J's?
J's are just super base specs. So from what I heard, it was like
Right.
no aircon, like nothing luxury in it. It was just, DE, nothing. It was
Right.
just cheap
Never
as.
seen one.
I only read about it
one.
today.
Wow.
I've never heard of it.
Huh.
But I'm guessing it wasn't as popular because
we're not allowed to import quite a few models into Australia.
That's
so
the thing.
yeah, so they have to meet specific standards.
S13's imported by Nissan, so it comes on. No, it was never imported by Nissan.
All of the ones that are here
Are
are
personal?
grey import.
So personal imports and stuff. And
No,
car yards.
grey imports. So this is pre-current import laws. This is around the late 90s, early 2000s, when there was a massive flood of Japanese imported vehicles into Australia, and the government was worried that it was going to saturate the market with all these cars, and that's when they went no more. And then they changed all of the laws, and that's why you have your SEVs and your what's the other one? The other ones for vehicles made before 1989, which you can get a 1988 Laurel or Zafiro, but you cannot get an S13. So they made sure they drew the line right on 1989. It's not a 25-year rule. It's a 1989 rule.
No matter how far ahead it goes, it's still...
Yeah. I would prefer to almost have something like America, where at least it changes after 25 years. Australia, like if you go onto Iron Chef's Facebook page, he's continuously trying to work with the government to try to change these laws.
Yeah.
If that is something that you want to help try and support, maybe send him a message, or at least keep an eye on his
just go and like his page and support his post, because he does do a lot of good work.
And he has been around for a long, long time. Definitely worth checking out. So you had your J's, Q's, K's, and A's. There you go.
But A's were in the middle.
And A's were in the middle. Well, I guess a 1 and an 11 is what an ace can be. So I don't even know how Japanese card games work. Maybe it is in the middle.
I don't know. It was based on English cards from what I read. So
there you go. Anything else that you can really say? Like, obviously you had your America only got your pop-up headlights. We were trying to discuss the reason for this. This is what we were
discussing about just before. All right, everybody can hear me. It's all right.
No, I can hear it. It's like, whoa. So stop it.
Sorry. So we were discussing this actually as I drove here. From what I've read and what everyone has told me, the 240SX only got pop-up headlights because the S13 fixed headlight front didn't pass certain safety laws in a certain state in America. I don't know which one. And that's why they just converted everything over to the pop-up headlights, because of the bigger front bar that was rated for pedestrian safety, but then pop-up headlights kind of...
Yeah, see, I find that hard to believe, purely because I think that they changed it with the A86 in America. They changed the whole front bumper.
Yeah, but they changed the whole front bumper, but...
And I think that it's something that they could have done. I think that it's a factor into the reason as to why America chose to go pop-up headlights on everything. But I feel like another major reason why they did was because of the market. It was marketed towards women. And pop-ups go up, panties go down, all right? Yes, the world needs 100%. More pop-ups. Yes, you are 100% correct. So I feel like that the decision to not go with the Sylvia front end was probably, yes, it was a partial factor in that they would have had to spend more money to do it, but I think it was a major marketing thing about the pop-ups. And I feel like when they went to the S14, that they really lost, I think I've already mentioned it, but they lost a lot of their female market, especially when you look at the S14A. Like, you said that some older ads were like marketed towards like almost drifting,
some of the older Japanese ads for the S14 were marketed as a FR sports car, and it wasn't implying drifting, but it was at the same time, which is really funny. Like, If I can find the ads on YouTube again, I'll link them on the Facebook page because they
Yeah.
are quite entertaining.
Yeah.
See an old Japanese man with an afro, it's great.
Yeah, I think one day we're gonna have to do like a live stream of just watching and
Right.
commenting on
Hells yeah.
the
That'd be
old
great.
ads. Yeah. So I feel like it wasn't the main reason, but I think it was a partial reason. And I think with
Listen,
the S14
America,
and the
please
S14's A's, they're so angry. They're not
I don't
marketed
even-
towards women.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even
And then you
like...
look at the S15, and they went back to basics in the looks with that. They brought back the convertible. It's a softer, still semi-aggressive, but
yeah, it
it's
was a nice line
softer
between,
aggressive.
between both of them.
And I think that's the reason why the S15 sold so well. But I'm so surprised that it didn't come to market in America, because I think it would have just done crazy well.
Probably because they didn't want to put a KA in it.
No, I just think they couldn't be bothered.
You're probably not.
But see, I don't know the sales specs on the S13s and the S14s as well. Maybe the S14s sold like trash in America too. So
Yeah.
I know there's a few of them over there, but I don't live there. Yeah, that's pretty much all of that I can say. Like, Europe definitely got them.
Marketed as
we were
200
speaking to the tie about the guys in Poland and Sweden, they got them like straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they were sold as 200 SXs over there. We didn't get the S13, but we got the S14 and S15. We got the S15s late, so in Australia you can only import Japanese 1999 model S15s. They're the only ones that are available for import, and there's a few still, but they're slightly more expensive.
Yeah.
There's all difference between an Australian one and a Japanese one. It's a flash of the ECU.
Or
basically.
just swap the ECU over.
Yeah, but the benefit of the Australian one is, if you want it, is it's not speed limited to 180k like a Japanese one, but it makes slightly less power just from emissions, and probably because it was actually tuned in Australia to suit Australian minimum and maximum conditions.
And
it
also
doesn't
our
snow
fuel.
here.
Yeah.
Like,
And we have
or
different
at least
fuel to
in
Japan.
the majority of Australia, and different fuels and stuff like that. I would say that realistically they make the same power. And
Most likely.
Yeah. That's pretty much all I can say about them.
Yeah. I'd like to own one.
This
That's
is like I don't know if you can see it, because I haven't even looked to see what you can see, especially after XSplit's stuffing up with this live naming. But basically, in one of our older podcasts, we did one about the 80s and drifting in the 80s. This is like an ongoing series. We wanted to do this because the S13 is such a big part of the 90s drift scene.
And it still
even
is
still
today.
Like,
You know,
it really is.
There is
You know?
a lot of them everywhere. They're starting to get rarer, and they're starting to get a lot
They're starting to
rougher.
get expensive too.
Yeah, they
Like-
used to... Gone are the days you could buy like a $2,000 S13.
Well, I think you still can, but they're so much
they're
fewer and
so-
further between.
Yeah, but you'd be able to pick one up that was generally okay.
I hope we see the return of pop-ups, but we're not going to, because the reason is
Pedestrian
the-
safety, because
pedestrian
people like
safety.
walking in front of cars.
Yep. So that's why
Common sense
we
went
won't
out the
ever
window
see
at
the
some
return
point.
of pop-ups. So I'd love to see it, but no, it's not going to happen.
Hopefully both our 86s end up with proper
Yeah,
pop-up
mine's
fronts.
got pop-ups, so that's
I
awesome.
hate you.
But yeah, so this is going to be a continuing series where we'll do it every so often.
Bring up different cars and different
Yeah,
things.
and different parts of history. I think that the history of drifting culture isn't overly said. Like there's like 10-minute videos and stuff on YouTube, but I'd love to do more research on certain topics and really try to do that history of
get a
drifting,
little bit more
so that it
in-depth
is
on-
out there for the future as well, because this isn't going to be around forever. Like, drifting's not going to be around forever.
No, and as you can see, like the rise and fall of every sort of forum to do with
It's
car
almost
modification.
gone in Japan. Like,
Yeah,
drifting
it's-
is almost gone. So
And
all the kids are just into video games, and if they're into cars, they're into stereos and bright lights. So
it's
like
the whole-
Bozozuku in style. Sorry, not Bozozuku. Shakutan.
Which one are you trying to
Yeah,
reference?
Shakutan style.
Yeah, like low down.
And Bozo
small.
style. It's all going.
Oh, it's virtually gone. It's only
the older generation,
old
like our
dudes that
parents and older.
keep it
And
going.
once they're over it or they're gone, it's gone. Not
Yeah,
gonna
it
be
was
there
like
anymore.
the juice box video that we watched and we mentioned.
One of the other things that I saw, it was on that Donut Media episode about the Sylvia. I watched it. He seemed to think that the silhouette, was it S13? The silhouette S13s that were the GT cars in Japan. He seemed to think that they started the Bozo stuff, but I'm like, pretty sure Bozo was around way before then.
Yes and no. They started the Kaido Racer thing. So Bozozoku started before as like a rebellious gang thing to the Japanese government to say, we're outside the box.
That was definitely something straight after the war.
Kaido Racer is not so much the big loud exhaust out. They've got those crazy like rubber fenders, I guess.
Yep,
you know the big ones I'm talking about?
Yep.
They're still small wheels. They're really wide. And they do have like the Bozozoku-esque front lips. And
yes, yeah. But it's not Bozo style.
It's not Bozo. It's Kaido Racer. It's, you know, something you'd see in an outlandish video game like early 90s-ish. And that's what it was. And
they reckon that,
that
the S13 silhouette GT race car was one of the starting of that. S12 was it?
Yeah, S12 was the big one, and then a lot of people, you know, still at that point had the previous generation cars, you know, like older Skylines and stuff like that, and they're like, oh, let's go put big flares on it, and big wings, but
it's
they
almost
were
like people
made
just
out of
trying
plywood.
to copy the they were just trying to copy.
Yeah, they just wanted to be just like the race car drivers.
Yeah,
and that's what. Yeah, that it did inspire the whole Kaido Racer thing, and that. It's a small, like, off branch of, like, Bozozoku as such. But yeah, no, Kaido Racers are cool. I like them.
Another thing that they mentioned, I'm pretty sure it was in that Donut Media video, that that silhouette S13 with the motor that was built for that, the little 4-cylinder, made more power than a Formula 1 car at the time.
Oh, yeah. No, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That it was like the...
So you can see, like, the impact that would have had on people, and they would have been like, I want that race car. So
it made some crazy power. Yeah, I watched a
I want to look into some history of that
documentary. It wasn't a documentary, it was like a little flashback history. They took the driver of that S12 or the DR30, one of the two. They shared a very similar motor. And they put him back in it, and he goes, this thing is just nuts. It's like, it'll hit boost, and it just hits boost and keeps going. It's like, there's nothing boost, and it'll just spin tires. And he said it was great to drive it again, but he said, I don't know how I raced that long in it. Because it is just so full on. Those cars are crazy, and
But yeah, expect some more, probably even higher research topics.
As we're coming into like less work time now.
Yeah, all of our lives are slowing down, especially after Matsuri in 2 weeks. And even though I'm not driving, but I'll try and put a video together as well. We're going to try and hang out with Hurt and stuff. But I imagine they're going to be pretty... surrounded by people. Like so we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully we can go and say hi. It'll be cool.
So thanks for watching anyway, guys, and
thanks for commenting. That's rad.
Thanks for commenting. I'm glad that they're working. I don't know, I'm gonna really have to try and sort out this name. And I'm sorry to anyone who watched 13 minutes of me saying test into the microphone earlier as well, because that was meant to be a private video, but obviously it wasn't.
And thanks to the guy on Instagram that actually messaged me to tell me about that, because otherwise we wouldn't have known.
Yes, and we would have just left it up there of me just saying test for 13 minutes. But anyway, we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Yeah, thanks, guys. Safety equals sadness, and love you. Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll catch you again in a couple of weeks post Matsuri. If you're at Matsuri,
come say hi.
Come say hi. He has There's going to be 2 silver 4-door R34s there, but...
Yeah, I'll be the one with the stupid kit.
Yeah.
And look out for my mate Brendan. He drives a red IS200, also with a big stupid kit.
And it's got a J?
1J in it. So it's going to be good fun.
You'll
And
spot that one.
We should have our Ranger style stickers on
Yeah.
them. We're trying to get them made, but you know.
Yeah. I do have a sticker cutter here, but yeah.
Well, we want big window banners.
I can't do that.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Cool.
Catch us at Matsuri, and we'll see you there.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.